the Madman! Welcome to the start of the official star ratings for RASTAKHAN'S Rumble. I'm going to start off with Druid, because Druid is not only alphabetically first, but also really easy to do. Pounce, 2 stars. Now, any spell that's 0 mana and has actually some amount of effect, always gotta be careful with rating these. With that said though, even though Druid has Ultimate Infestation and probably would like to play some 0 mana cards, like they like playing Arcane Tyrant, there's a difference between playing a 0 mana 4/4 and 0 mana +2 attack. Pounce just is low impact enough in a class that naturally ramped their mana up very fast, so they don't need the 0 mana spells as much. And it should be no surprise at this point that I definitely do not think that an attack power Druid is going to work. That is just so much more inferior than all the other Druid archetypes out there. It has no chance of success. Spirit of the Raptor, 1 star. The thing is, you always have to commit some amount of mana into attacking with your hero power unless you have exactly Twig of the World Tree equipped. Or Pounce. The other Druid archetypes are so much better. They put together the deck with Pounce and Spirit of the Raptor and Savage Striker and Gonk the Raptor, and inevitably, it looks bad. Savage Striker, 1 star. If Druid had gotten quality plus attack cards, Savage Striker actually might have had a chance. What's missing is a quality your hero gets plus attack card. Pounce, while decent, just isn't enough to cut it. So therefore, Savage Striker just ends up being like a 2 mana 2/3 with a small bonus when you actually play another spell that gives you plus attack. This seems bad. War Druid Lodi. I rate her 4 stars. I think she's exactly good in Malygos Druid, and I don't necessarily know if Malygos Druid will be tier 1 or tier 2, but I know there's a home for her there at least, and perhaps Token Druid. Very flexible, very good. Gonna see you play in most of the Druid decks that don't run Oaken Summons, I predict. Predatory Instincts, 1 star. 4 mana, draw 1 card. Even though you can get Gonk, even though you can tutor for Hadronox, even though you can get Undasta, blah for all of those, I say. Mark of the Loa, this is clearly pack filler, 1 star. Summoning 2/3/2 Raptors is inferior to Saronite Chain Gang. Giving a minion +2/+4 and Taunt is super not worth 4 mana, so not even close. Tree Speaker, 1 star. Tree and Druid is not close enough to good that having the inclusion of Tree Speaker is gonna make it good. So, sorry Tree Speaker. Stampeding Roar, 1 star. So Stampeding Roar is pretty much good exactly on turn 6 or 7, potentially 8. That's where you get the mana cheat from. But Druids already naturally cheat mana by just ramping. The main problem is you have to draw the Roar on exactly turn 6, or 7 or 8. Otherwise it's not very good since you can just play the Beast later. And not only that, you have to have the Beast already in your hand. No, it's not gonna work. Don't worry, the Ironhide Direhorn Dream with the Predatory Instincts combo and the Stampeding Roar is not going to work. Speaking of which, Ironhide Direhorn, 1 star. Admittedly, that card is pretty scary with Rush. You can immediately spawn a 5/5 with it, which would be like a 12/12 worth of value for 7. Especially if you Stampeding Roared it out. But it's so tough to get exactly that card and Stampeding Roar. I'm just not seeing it. Finally, Gonk the Raptor, 1 star. So incredibly bad. The attack power of Druid is just terrible. The stats on this card aren't very good. So sorry Raptor fans, it was a bad season for you, but you know, you had a winning streak up until now. But this time, you got gonked. Welcome to the Mage cards. These are gonna push Mage in some interesting directions. Elemental Evocation is one such card that's going to push Elemental Mage. The only question is that going to be good enough to push this tier 4 deck into competition? And unfortunately, having pieced together the deck, I'm not seeing it. 2 stars. But an excellent card. Daring Fire Eater, 3 stars. There's going to be a decent amount of decks out there which are willing to use the hero power often. First of all, of course, is Odd Mage, which unfortunately, I also think is going to be similar to the Elemental Mage in that it's going to be a tier 3/4 deck. But also Big Spell Mage. Big Spell Mage, I think, is going to be a tier 3 deck, and this card notably is not a spell, so it is not going to hurt Dragon's Fury. And in that deck, it'll be a solid 3 mana deal 3 and get a 1/1 with it. Spirit of the Dragonhawk, 1 star, unfortunately. While I do like the idea of Daring Fire Eater, Spirit of the Dragonhawk when you're Frostlich Jaina, and then dealing 3 damage to 3 adjacent minions, and potentially summoning 3 water elementals. Whew, that value. Whew. I just think that this is a little bit too much of a utility card. Just not quite good enough, I think. Pyromaniac, 2 stars. The card is an obvious addition to Odd Mage, but Odd Mage does not need value and needs to be faster, really. Pyromaniac, it's slow. Splitting Image, 1 star. It's simply too slow, and it's very similar to Effigy, which did not really see play. If you try to combine this with one of your big cards, the big card will simply get spelled out, and then it won't get attacked. Scorch! This is the card that Elemental Mage needed. The main problem is, once again, this Elemental deck, the backbone behind the entire Elemental stuff. It's just not that good. It's a tier 4 deck right now. I just don't think Elemental Evocation, Scorch, and Arcanosaur are strong enough to push a tier 4 deck into competitive play right now. Blast Wave, 2 stars. For all of the laughing I've done on Blast Wave and calling it too slow, I feel like there might be one deck where Blast Wave might see play, and that is going to be Odd Big Spell Mage. Blast Wave might just be that important 5th spell that you use as a utility card sometimes. So, hey, maybe Blast Wave does have a place. Arcanosaur, 2 stars. On review, I actually think that Arcanosaur will see play in Elemental Mage sometimes. The Elementals are pretty hefty, and notably, there is no 6-drop currently in Elemental Mage. So 6-drop Arcanosaur followed up with 7-drop Blazecaller. It's the missing link. Janelle the Dragonhawk. This is one of the public's highest rated cards, and yet I'm going to give it 3 stars. Clearly a must-have in Odd Mage decks. I think that Odd Mage will not be that successful of a deck. With just 4 hero powers from Odd Mage, you can get your 7 mana 4/4 plus a Ragnaros. That's really good, but I don't think it's good enough to make Odd Mage that good. I don't think it needs to be stated that a 7 mana 4/4 and summon Ragnaros is really good, and there's a deck in the game that can specifically, very consistently do that. Problem is, the rest of that deck isn't that good. And finally, Hexlord Malakras, 3 stars. I think Hexlord Malakras is a must play in Big Spell Mage. Great card, 8 mana, 5/5, draw 3.5 cards, and don't even actually draw cards to push yourself further into fatigue, but just get copies of cards. And that's an excellent value card. Mayor Valiant approves. The Mage gets a lot of cool tools for a lot of different archetypes. Big Spell Mage, Elemental Mage, Odd Mage with Elementals. It's just that, will any of these decks actually break into top competitive play? I do think that they're going to be strong enough to hit Legend with. So if you're a fan of Mage play, then there's a lot of cool toys here for you to put in a very good deck. But top competitive level play, uncertain. Welcome to RASTAKHAN'S Rumble. Star ratings for Hunter. These were actually really tricky. Starting with one card that I could be wrong, the Spring Paw, hyped by Blizzard developers to be like, you know, it's nice to have a 1-drop Hunter card that's going to see play over the next entire year. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, really? For me, I'm going to stick with my gut instinct, 2 stars. On turn 1, it's definitely worse than Firefly. On turn 2, it's worse than Firefly. I will admit that it is better than Firefly, probably starting around turn 4, because at that point, Firefly is just being used for 1 damage, and Spring Paw is fast 1 damage. But my problem is that it just reminds me so much of Razor Petal. It's basically 1 mana, deal 1 damage, and then get another Razor Petal. So, no, I don't see a home for the Spring Paw. The Beast Within, 1 star. Clearly a card that's meant to supplement a Beast Hunter deck, or a Hunter deck with Beasts. I feel like the effect is just too small. Just doesn't quite meet my standards of impactful enough to be a card, I guess. Revenge of the Wild is a card that I struggled a lot with where to place it, and ultimately I'm going to decide on 3 stars. Not as a hedge, but because I genuinely believe that it is a card that is going to be in and out of decks as a tech option. Sometimes it'll potentially be a one-of in Spell Hunter, because Spell Hunter has a number of beasts out there in multiples, like To My Side summons 2 animal companions. You have the Wolves of the Spellstone. And heck, it's a spell. If you do Revenge of the Wild a big beast, that is pretty sweet. I just don't envision the dream scenarios where you're Revenge the Wilding like multiple big beasts. Headhunters Hatchet, 2 stars. I do think Headhunters Hatchet is going to be better post-expansion once Candleshot rotates out, but while Candleshot is still in the meta, I feel like decks are going to run Candleshot over Headhunters Hatchet. It is a 2-3 decent amount of time, it's kind of tough to actually play the turn 1 beast. Spirit of the Lynx, 1 star. I don't believe that it's going to be value enough for the severe amount of tempo loss this puts you through when cards like Addled Grizzly and Sword of Justice have proven themselves to not work. It's 2 tempo minus to play. Bloodscalp Strategist, 3 stars. If you run 4 weapons in your deck, Candleshot and either Headhunter's Hatchet or Eaglehorn Bow, you have about a 66% chance of having the weapon by turn 3. Now the problem with Strategist is the more commonly played weapon, Eaglehorn Bow, is going to be your turn 3 play, and then you can't play Strategist on 3, like maybe you play it on 4, in which case it's closer to Gnomish Inventor, which is not great. I consider it to be very strong value when you can do it, and therefore I consider it to be worth considering in a deck. I personally have it in my Secret Hunter deck, but I'm not sure if it'll stick in there. Master's Call, 2 stars. I feel like that this will not really work out in the long run. Houndmaster is just too good of a card, so is Houndmaster Shaw. And while I love drawing 3 cards for 3, especially in Hunter, I just cannot really see nixing those cards. And I also don't see like a mid-range Hunter with just beasts in their deck as a primary focus compared to, say, Secret Hunter or Spell Hunter as the mid-range deck of choice. Alazi the Lynx, 2 stars. What I ultimately decided on is that 1/1 Lynxes with Rush are basically the same as Razor Petal, and I also made the decision, I value about 3 Lynxes per 1 real card. So therefore Halazi the Lynx, when it draws 6 Lynxes, is worth about 2 card draw. And it's like, is a 5-mana 3/2 draw 2 cards that good in Hunter? When you consider that the best case for it is drawing 10 Lynxes, that's like my equivalent of 3 1/3 cards. Super late. Baited Arrow, 1 star. The card can be evaluated as a 5-mana 5/5 deal 2 damage, because that's how you get the overkill of the 5/5. Just not strong enough compared to Flanking Strike, in short. And finally, Zul'jin, 5 stars. It's a lot like Ultimate Infestation levels, I would say. Because when you're playing it, I do see very realistic situations where you are going to be playing an additional 7 spells alongside Zul'jin, all of which are going to help you. Any secret is always good for you. Animal Companion, To My Side, Crushing Walls, Deadly Shot, Flanking Strike is good. Emerald Spellstone, absolutely insane. Honestly, Zul'jin has a slight downside that it is a hero card, because your Deathstalker Rexar will sometimes get overwritten, and the hero power is probably a downgrade. But yeah, this is a Yogg effect, which is always positive for you because of the nature of Hunter spells. Amazing card. So, Hunter's getting some good stuff. And even cards like Spring Paw and Headhunter's Hatchet and Halazi and Master's Call, they all look interesting, they all look like they could work somewhere. But man, that Zul'jin, I think Zul'jin is really going to amplify the power of Spell Hunter and Secret Hunter by so much. By the light, it's time for Team Tiger. Bloodclaw, 5 stars, is an excellent addition, I think, to Odd Paladin. Because it's one of the more aggressive decks, it doesn't really care about health that much since it's aiming to really bring down the opponent's health. I'm just imagining all the times where Odd Paladin and Zoo fight it out in the early game and how useful it would be to play this Bloodclaw and kill their Flamant and then like damage their other guy and then send a 1/1 in to kill it. Yeah, Bloodclaw could do it. Immortal Prelate, 2 stars. I think that it's a popular enough card and archetype that it will see play before it is discovered to be bad. The main problem is it looks inferior to current Control Paladin decks. And even if there is an enchantment version, it's not because of Immortal Prelate, I'd say, it's because of Spirit of the Tiger, so Immortal Prelate, too slow. Flash of Light, 3 stars. Flash of Light is an excellent card, and I firmly believe that Control Paladins are going to seek to run this for the same reason that Shield Block is run for Control Warrior. I just don't think Healadin is going to be better than the other archetypes. Flash of Light could fit into Control Paladin, and that's where the stars are coming from. High Priest Thekkel. Much hyped card. Excellent stats. 2 stars. When I really look at it, I'm like, whatever. So you get to heal faster. Who cares? You might argue Healadin cares. This is the thing that saves Healadin. Nah, whatever. Being able to start healing on turn 3, that's not a big enough advantage, I would say. Timeout. 2 stars. One might think OTK Paladin wants timeout, right? But OTK Paladin, that deck takes like 20 turns to win the game. So if you're immune for 1 turn in the late game, that is not going to give you the reach to get to turn 20. And while it's tempting to time out and like equip a Blood Claw or something, save all the damage for a turn, that is just not good. Zandalari Templar, 1 star. The heal archetype is, I'd say, so far off, and really the only payoff is Zandalari Templar. It's for that reason that I don't think Zandalari Templar is going to be played. Spirit of the Tiger, 3 stars. I actually see a lot of potential in Spirit of the Tiger, but my main problem with it is I'm not sure that any deck can afford the negative tempo of playing this along with this spell. It's nice how it has a stall for 1 turn, and it's slow and it's got a payoff, and I acknowledge its power, but I'm very concerned with its slowness and whether or not it's actually going to make any deck work. Iraqi Battle Axe, 1 star. Not much to say, it's just way too slow. A new challenger, 1 star. We did the math, and the math says that on average you're getting a 6/6 Taunt Divine Shield with it, or maybe a 3/9 Taunt Divine Shield, and that just isn't good enough. And finally, Shirvala the Tiger, 2 stars. It's possible that Control Paladin doesn't actually run enough spells to make Shirvala the Tiger good. Second place for Shirvala the Tiger is possible is in some Spirit of the Tiger buff deck. Somewhat of a problem is that it's possible that these buff decks, if they exist, might be even and Shirvala the Tiger isn't even. Third possibility Shirvala is the spicy one, the Holy Wrath Shirvala combo, but that is so much more setup than just Mechathune. So in short, just run Mechathune, and not in Paladin, run in a different class. It's way faster, you don't have to jump through as many hoops. Healadin gets a bunch of toys, however, as a whole, I don't think that Heal Paladin beats out the other Control Paladin decks right now, that being decks that focus on Mechano Egg and decks that focus on OTK Death Knight Paladin. Both of those seem like they're going to be stronger variants than going hard healing. Welcome to the Dead class for 2 reasons, haha! Starting with Regenerate, 1 star. 0 mana cards, obligatory warning, always have to be evaluated carefully. And restoring 3 health is not nothing. It's a cute card, but it's just too low impact to play in a control deck. And an aggro deck is not looking to aggressively regenerate with Akanai Phantasm, I think. Spirit of the Dead, 1 star. I'm sorry, Spirit and Loa. This particular combination I just don't see working. The setup, even if it does work, seems way too intricate. Like, Spirit of the Dead, and then they're 1-cost cards, and then you have to eventually draw them again, and then you do the combo of them. It's like, what? What Priest is trying to do here is befuddling, and I don't get it. Akanai Phantasm, an efficiently statted 2 mana 3/2 with a useful ability, 1 star. This is a classic case of, yeah, this is a card that clearly looks like, you know, it could theoretically be played, because 2 mana 3/2 with bonus, right? But that's why our rating system is superior. It's not going to see 1% of play. What deck could possibly play this? Are you playing the Akanai Phantasm Regenerate aggressive deck? That seems ridiculous. So yeah, Embrace the Shadows, better version for the most part, but Example of a card that doesn't really see play is a strictly better gang up in Lab Recruiter. So there's precedence that putting a 2 mana spell on just a 2 mana 3/2 will not really see play. Seance, 2 stars. This is pretty much a 2-star rating specifically for Quest Priest. Maybe you run the double Seance and the Zola Troll deck. You have 4 ways to go back to 40. Cool. Unfortunately, I just see that as maybe good against aggro, against other control, and against other combo. You'll probably still be at a disadvantage. Sandrudge, 1 star. Problem is, Priest doesn't have any proactive early spells other than Outward Shield. How about the Divine Spirit Inner Fire Extra Arms Priest? Well, I will admit that's the most likely place for Sandrudge to find a home, but I don't believe that that deck is looking to cast that many of those spells early on. Nope, not seeing it. Surrender to Madness. 1 star. Even though a card of neutral quality was printed to combo with Surrender to Madness, and even though that is a deck recipe, no, I don't believe the Mojo Man is going to let you be mad and still win. So, pro tip, do not surrender to Madness. You'll probably lose the game. Mass Hysteria. 4 stars. So I think this is the best Priest card here. It is excellent against wide boards and good against like 2 tall minions. And against the Zoo early boards, Control or Combo Priests generally had to wait until Psychic Scream, and then they just stalled and hoped that they could get Psychic Scream off in time. Mass Hysteria is now the way to bridge that gap. So Mass Hysteria might actually enable quite a few of the Combo Priests to have a better chance against aggro. Bwonsamdi, the Dead. 1 star. Unfortunately, Bwonsamdi doesn't actually get to draw very many cards unless it's an exact combination of Spirit of the Dead. So you'd really have to just run 6 1-drops to get a good deal out of Bwonsamdi, and there's no deck that I think that wants to do that. Princess Talanji. 1 star. Awesome in theory, but bad in practice. You know, kind of like how Tess is awesome in theory, but also bad in practice. But unlike Tess, you can actually play your stolen cards and then play Tess, and then get all the stolen cards as effects. Princess Talanji, you have to like hold the cards you discover and steal, and then play Princess Talanji, effectively saving the mana on the cards but not actually gaining any value. So not even 2 stars. The deck is just gonna suck that much. And finally, Grave Horror. 1 star. In theory, if this were a 6 mana 7/8 taunt, like it would be a good card, but to cast that many spells before Grave Horror, that seems unlikely. I'm not seeing a multiple Priest spell deck. The closest that you could come with it is that Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, Extra Arms deck. That still doesn't cast enough spells to be able to cast Grave Horror at a low enough price quickly enough. Priest gets a lot of cards that look like they synergize with each other, and that's always the tough part to look at in expansions because they're uncertain. And like all of this theoretically works together, but you'd have to be mad to run any of those decks. Welcome to the Rogue ratings! At first, I thought this class was going to have to walk the plank, but there is one particular card that might make you want to have a party. Starting with Serrated Tooth, 1 star. While I have to admit that a dream opening of Serrated Tooth into Sharkfin Fan into Henge Clan Thug into Ticket Scalper sounds absolutely incredible and insane. The chances of drawing a 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, let me crunch the numbers real fast. Beep boop beep boop. We're gonna just ballpark it at under 1%. Bloodsail Howler, 1 star. Now, in short, I don't think that this Pirate Rogue deck is going to work, so just run Odd Rogue. Stolen Steel, 1 star. I mean, this is just a bad weapon. You're hoping to high roll the 10% chance you get Twig of the World Tree. I'm not actually certain this would see play at 1 mana. That's how far off it is. Raiding Party, 5 stars. It's a cheaper Nourish that tutors. The idea here is that you're putting Dread Corsair into your deck. Dread Corsair is a card that's only good with weapons, but thankfully Raiding Party always gets you a weapon. So then you play your weapon, pow, Dread Corsairs. 0 mana, 3/3s. Maybe that'll really buffer up its weakness against aggro. But yeah, talking about Kingsbane, that clearly looks good. More ways to find your Kingsbane. Add in some Dread Corsair, possibly Cutthroat Buccaneer, Captain Greenskin package. On the Death Rattle Rogue side, Dread Corsair. I'm not entirely sure between Southsea Captain and Southsea Deckhand. Some amount of those. In short, 3 mana draw 3, of which the cards drawn synergize with each other and are cheap enough so that you can kind of justify playing a low tempo card like Card Draw. Yeah, maybe that'll work. Spirit of the Shark, 1 star. Unfortunately, I just see this as way too slow. Is Spirit of the Shark enough to get enough value? No, I think the value is taken by the Death Rattle. I think the control long game plan is taken by Kingsbane. So Spirit of the Shark, you are left alone without any friends. Walk the Plank, 2 stars. There are a few decks out there where it's actually difficult to combo the Vilespine Slayer, and Walk the Plank is admittedly a 1 mana cheaper Assassinate. If it doesn't see play here, When Valspine Slayer rotates out in a few months, it'll likely see play as a nice, cheap killer card. Growl the Shark, 2 stars. When I look at it, I see it as 5 mana, 5/5 being optimistic. Death Rattle, get the 3/3 that you ate on average into your hand. Is that good? I mean, it's a Valley Rogue card, but what Valley Rogue is going to play that? And I would argue none of them. I was going to rate it 1 stars, but with all the unbridled optimism over this card, I have to think it'll see at least 1% of play. Cannon Barrage, 1 star. I simply do not see a board-filling aggro pirate deck working. Boy, do those pirates suck. And even though I rated Raiding Party 5, it's not for the reasons of comboing with Cannon Barrage now. Screwbashi Hypemon, 1 star. And it's just a big guy which does something which you can't really be assured of being good. The dream is to combo it with the other card I rated bad, Spirit of the Shark, but I feel like that is a pipe dream for this Value Rogue deck. Not gonna work. And Captain Hooktusk, 1 star. I'm afraid it's time for you to walk the plank. While it's very impressive to think of the situations where you're going to Captain Hooktusk and you're gonna get your Ticket Scalper, South Sea Captain, I feel like such a situation will be rare and or require too much setup to be practical. Plus, Valley Rogue deck has never worked before, and I don't think that the addition of this Captain Hooktusk combo is going to be enough to make it work. So in short, I think Raiding Party might carry Rogue. Welcome to the Shaman star ratings for RASTAKHAN. This particular class was very tough to give ratings for. This is the class to look into if you're a mad scientist. I feel like there's a lot of potential in this one, but it's really hard to see whether or not all the cards will synergize with each other enough to create a brand new creation. Now let's start with Wartbringer, 1 star. It's tough to justify a card that only does that if you play 2 spells and the payoff is just being able to come up with an extra 2/1 into mid to late game. Totemic Smash, 2 stars. I don't think that the Malagos into Totemic Smash, Lightning Bolt deck is going to be that strong, and ultimately 1 mana deal 2 damage has never been too exciting. Big Bad Voodoo, 1 star. I have shockingly seen some people rate Big Bad Voodoo highly, and I'm extremely confused by how, because it's basically Ancestral Spirit. Ancestral Spirit wasn't used, and why not just use Unstable Evolution? Lick him, 5 stars. 2 mana, 3/3 weapon if you're really optimistic. In Shudderwalk, Lickham can certainly replace Keleseth. It'll be much desired to have this 2 mana 3/3 weapon. As a reminder, when you cast your Lightning Bolt, you're overloaded not only on the turn that you cast Lightning Bolt, but also the turn after you cast Lightning Bolt. Given that Shudderwalk naturally runs Lightning Storm and Volcano, I feel like Lickham will be able to be used plenty of times. But past just that, I think Lickham has a lot of potential if you're looking to combine it with the Spirit of the Frog deck. There's all this potential for an Overload deck as well. A 2 mana 3/3 weapon, like if you put it into a deck which is relatively easy to get the precondition for, that seems great. Zen Teemo, 3 stars. There are a few different paths to using it. First of all, you could use it with basically cards that buff your own guys. There's even talks about using it in combination of Wind Fury and Rockbiter Weapon to do massive amounts of damage. Seems tough. The other purpose is to Zen Teemo into Hex, or Zen Teemo into Tidal Surge, or Zen Teemo into something bad that targets the opponent's stuff. It's kind of tough to find the condition where you need to deal with 3 or more of your opponent's spells when you can just run Lightning Storm and Volcano also. Zen Teemo's in a strange spot where he seems good, but similar to Electra Storm Surge, will he be able to find the right spot? Spirit of the Frog, my reveal card, my pet favorite. I'm going to put it at 4 stars. It's a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, which continues to draw cards the turn afterwards because it's stealthed and protected. It's a card that costs only 3 mana, and you can even activate it as early as turn 3. You play it in the late game and you get a lot more cards, similar to Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Another comparison I like to make is it's like Stargazer Luna, except it always feeds you like cards that you can continue to play on the cheap. And Spirit of the Frog finally combines so well with Haunting Visions. It splits the Haunting Visions spell itself into 2 more spells. Originally was going to make my top 10 list, but I am just a little bit shy on whether or not it's quite good enough. Bog Slosher, 2 stars. The number 1 deck I see this slotting itself into is the mid-range Shaman Shudderwock deck, which after the Giggling Inventor nerf has never quite been the same. The main problem with putting this in the normal Shudderwock deck is you might Bog Slosher your Shudderwock into your hand instead of grumbling your Shudderwock back into your hand. Kind of similar to how Youthful Brewmaster never saw play. It's just so much better for your Shudderwock to cost 1 instead of 9. Haunting Visions, 3 stars. The place that I see Haunting Visions seeing the play the most is in any deck with Spirit of the Frog. Now, I'm not saying that all Spirit of the Frog decks will run Haunting Visions, but I think it's pretty likely because whenever you play Spirit of the Frog and then you play Haunting Visions, you are going to get the Haunting Visions branched out into 2 spells. I don't think a 0 mana Shaman card, which just said discover a spell, would actually be played. But it's specifically in combination with Spirit of the Frog where it's good. It's also specifically in combination with Kragma the Frog too. 4 stars. Kragma the Frog double dips on all of your unstable evolutions, double dips on Haunting Visions, and if you're getting 2 spells back with Kragma the Frog, you're looking in really good shape because that was a better Ancient of Lore. I see Kragma the Frog in a bunch of mid-rangey decks. Rain of Toads, 1 star. This is a 6 mana, 6/12 worth of stats immediately, but at the cost of the overload later on. Kind of like how Feral Spirits is a 3 mana, 4/6 worth of stats. In theory, Rain of Toads also doesn't seem that promising. Just in terms of the mana to stat ratio, 9 mana, 9/12 worth of stats, meh. So all in all, Shaman is an interesting grab back. I think there's a lot to explore in Shaman. Will we be able to see a good Spirit of the Frog, Kragma, Lickem combination? Is it Haunting Visions? Is it going to look like a face deck? Is it going to look like a mid-range deck? Is it going to look like a control deck? Are all 3 possible? Is it going to be heavy overload with Thunderhead? Is it going to be just light enough amount of overload to run Lickem? Get your tinkering out if you are a mad deck constructor for Shaman. Welcome to Team Bad! Unintended. We're going to start with Shriek, 2 stars. Warlock doesn't actually need this. They have Defile, they have Hellfire. Is this a critical element in the Control Warlock deck? Yes. Is a Control discard deck going to be any good? Probably not. Grim Rally, hyped up by some as good, I still hold that it's bad. 2 stars with a note that it's only 2 stars because when I'm guessing between 1 and 2 stars, I have to guess what the populace is going towards. And fine, maybe Grim Rally will see some experimentation before people realize that it's bad. Would maybe be worth it if you got +2/+2 stats, so you have to overcompensate for the presumably 1/1 minion you're killing, so you have to have 3 other minions that you're doing in order to cast Grim Rally. And a card that has like a prerequisite that you have to have 3 other minions, that seems pretty bad. Spirit of the Bat, 1 star. How are you going to trade stuff and keep up the board presence if you're playing something on T? Oh, and also, by the way, Keleseth. So, yeah. No. Ruthless Dire Troll, 1 star. For the reward of discarding a card, you get a big statted 8 stat minion for 3. But that already exists, right? Tar Creeper. Mostly. Is discarding a benefit? No, not yet. The payoff just isn't there yet. You can discard High Priestess Jacklick, you can discard Zavis, but like that's all that's good. High Priestess Jacklick. Here's our first attempt to reward us at discarding cards, and I'm gonna level with you. It's a pretty decent reward. 2 stars. What's there to say? Just the discard benefits from discarding High Priestess Jacklick and Zavis, which are both legendary, so you can't even discard them so consistently. It's just not worth it. Soul Warden is a powerful card. 2 stars, by the way, but is a powerful card if discard actually had good rewards. Soul Warden, therefore, is just a 6 mana 6/6, since you just recoup whatever you discard. But clearly, I will add the asterisk that obviously, if discard lock turns out to be good, High Priestess Jacklick and Soul Warden will be awesome. But you know, we make the bet that they're not going to be good this expansion. Blood Troll Sapper, 1 star. This comes online too late for Zoo. This doesn't really make much sense in other decks. Hirik the Bat. The major synergy between the Bat team is hand buff with Spirit of the Bat. Bat idea. You'd be batty to build such a deck. You're gonna have a bat time if you build that deck. You'll just get batted away by any deck. 1 star, Herik the Bat. Void Contract, 1 star. Combo decks are not the majority of decks. You cannot afford to put an 8 mana spell against the majority of decks where it does nothing. Maybe tournament play? And finally, Demon Bolt. 2 stars, just because I'm pretty much giving away pity 2 stars to the class that doesn't have much. I mean, it's only 4 mana destroy minion when you're already winning, and like, yeah, sure, would you run a 4 mana destroy minion? They would be iffy on that, and it's like only that if you're already winning also, it's like, ah. So all in all, Team Bat, blah. Don't cry too much for Warlock though, because it has 4 viable decks out there, which is presumably why, in this time, they got hit by the nerf bat in terms of, you know, what they're getting. Welcome to Team Rhino. Team Rhino is about 2 different themes. First is about rushing, second is about dragons. And I actually think both will work. Let's start with Spirit of the Rhino, 3 stars. Obviously, it's a good addition to a rush deck, and I think the rush deck is going to be around tier 3. I don't know if you want to run 2 of the Spirit of the Rhino in this deck. Might 2 bog you down too much? I'm not entirely sure. Devastate, 3 stars. I think Devastate can actually serve as a stand-in for Execute, and notably Odd Warrior is a pretty popular deck right now, which might want to have a Execute type ability. So, Devastate? At 1 mana less than Execute, like I can see Devastate potentially replacing Execute in a few places. Dragon Roar, 2 stars. Originally I looked at this and was like, this is the missing link between dragons. But when I decided to put the deck together, and when I've seen the pre-constructed dragon deck put together, which is honestly not that far off of what I would have made, it's like, I'm uninspired. It's not that good. Smolder Thorn Lancer, 5 stars. You might be confused because Dragon Roar, 2 stars? Smolder Thorn Lancer, which is a dragon lover, 5 stars? Well, Smolder Thorn Lancer is going to be the reason why you build a dragon deck. And I do think that there will be a legitimate dragon deck made when you're putting in an odd dragon. When you combine the natural slowness of dragons with the 4 armor hero power, now you might have something going for it. And Odd Warrior didn't have an execute ability, but Lancer being a 3/2 that comes with an execute, I think that pushes the dragons into Odd Warrior to create a potential rival to Odd Warrior. Overlord's Whip, 1 star. I don't really have much to say about it other than I don't think there are very many cards that care about getting damage to themselves. War Master Voon, 2 stars. War Master Voon, unfortunately, cannot be played in an odd Dragon Warrior. And that's why it, alongside Dragon Roar, I think will get left out of the dragon fun. Potentially get a bunch of high value dragons like Ysera in your hand. And it's like, that doesn't beat control decks. That doesn't beat combo decks. That might beat aggro decks, but so does Odd Warrior. Odd Warrior actually has a chance of beating the combo and control decks. Emberscale Drake, 5 stars. Emberscale Drake is basically Smolder Thorn Lancer's best friend, and you will see one with the other in the same deck always. The Lancer makes you want to put in all the dragons. The Emberscale Drake is one of the best dragons, which also enables you to pull in more dragons. Just an always good proactive play. Heavy Metal, 1 star. You certainly can't guarantee that you'll actually have the armor. Just run Geosculptor Yip. Soul Thrace, Cautious, 3 stars. Is it better than Super Collider in control decks? No. I feel pretty solid in saying that. Do I think the Rush Warrior deck has a decent chance? Yes, and I think that I think Soul Thrace might see play in that deck. Therefore, that's why I'm rating it just above the 2-star rating. And I think it has a decent shot. Akali the Rhino, 3 stars. The Rush Warrior deck is already around tier 3, and I think it'll remain around there. I don't think Akali is going to improve it by that much, but it should improve it by a little bit. So all in all, good stuff for Warrior. The 2 major archetypes of Control Warrior are buffered by the option to play the dragons. The Rush Warrior, which is tier 3, gets 2 new toys, Akali and Spirit, as well as Soul Thrace, which potentially synergizes well with its aggressive nature. Devastate might be a good card in the control decks. And it's possible that Dragon Warriors will include Dragon Roar and War Master Voon, because Admittedly, Odd Warrior also cannot run an excellent Dragon Lover in Fire Tree Witch Doctor. And now time for the neutrals of RASTAKHAN'S Rumble. We're gonna start off very exciting. Saronite Taskmaster. 5 stars. Is Saronite Taskmaster's downside that bad? I think not. They get a 0-3 with taunt. Many decks can't really make use of it, so in that sense, it's just 3 health to the opponent. And it's a death rattle, which means it's not even immediate. There's really not much I can say about it other than that the stats are really good and that the downside is manageable. Helpless Hatchling, 1 star, pretty obviously useless. No major beast combo that can be achieved through reducing the cost of a beast by 1. Gyrubashi Offering, 1 star, gets the rating for the worst card in the set. Gyrubashi Chicken, 1 star, pretty obviously a meme card. Waterboy, 1 star, just use your hero power. In other words, a 0 mana 2/1 isn't that strong when you can only play it on turn 2. Spellzerker, 2 stars. I think this card's ability is strong enough that it will be experimented with. Embo Mage isn't going to be much of a deck, but that's a powerful effect. Soup Vendor, 1 star. I don't think there's enough synergy. No soup for you. Guildbreaker, 1 star. Don't even think it's going to get the 2-star rating because Keleseth is in the meta and no one's going to be running these 2-cost minions. Darkfin Fan, 3 stars. Darkfin Fan is in a strange spot where I personally cannot find a use for it because I think Even Rogue is terrible. I think that Pirates are terrible. I think that Attack Druid is terrible. But at the same time, the card is so powerful that someone should be able to figure out a use for it, right? Serpent Ward, 1 star. Incredibly useless. Scarab Bag, 2 stars. I think there is a possible chance that this card might be fit into Even Shaman with Direwolf Alpha and Flame Tongue Totem and Earthen Might. Maybe you have enough efficient ways to activate Scarabeg, and then very optimistically you could look at this card as a 3/5 stat line for 2, which looks pretty good. Fire Tree Witch Doctor, 4 stars, has applications in both the Control Priest, which is running dragons, I think that's the most likely, as well as just your usual Dragon Warrior, which is not odd. Dozing Marksman, 1 star. I don't think I'm sleeping on a 2-mana 0/4, which takes a lot of work. Cheaty Ankle Biter, 1 star. The addition of Lifesteal doesn't make the Battlecry deal 1 damage stat line good. Burebe Bookie, 1 star. It's kind of a 2-mana 3/3, but since it gives your opponent a 1 mana, it's like a 3-mana 3/3, which is terrible. Belligerent Gnome, 1 star. Not going to be running aggressive decks, which are running Keleseth. Not going to be running odd decks because it's even. Not going to be running control decks because Mind Control Tech is better. Untamed Beastmaster, 2 stars. I personally don't think that Untamed Beastmaster will find play with Master's Call because I feel like Master's Call will do very poorly if you put in any non-beast into your deck. Untamed Beastmaster is also just good stat line, nice ability, and for that reason I think it'll see some experimentation. Ornery Tortoise, 3 stars. I think there's exactly one deck that would consider this, and that's Odd Paladin. The only question is, can Odd Paladin afford to run Ornery Tortoise as well as Blood Claw? Masked Contender, 5 stars. This card fits into a already excellent card in the meta, Secret Hunter. 3 mana 2/4, draw and play a secret that normally costs 2 mana. Like, that's really strong. In that sense, given that the secret costs 2 mana, you could consider this card 1 mana 2/4 draw a card. That's a good card. Drakari Trickster, 1 star. You can have a highly synergetic deck, and Drakari Trickster will give them a card from your deck, which, you know, is not very useful without the synergy, but I don't think that's worth exploring too much. Banana Buffoon, 1 star. A lot of rumblings around this card potentially being good with spell synergy, or potentially good with activating the spell quest for Mage. But ultimately, I think that is pure buffoonery. Ticket Scalper, 1 star. Too slow. Won't see you play. Classic. Rumble Tusk Shaker, 1 star. It's just a classic case of not enough stats on a basic card. Regenerating Thug, 1 star. 4 mana 3/5 stat line just isn't strong enough. Meta would have to be really aggressive for this to be good. Murloc Tasty Fin, 1 star. Too slow for a Murloc deck. Ice Cream Peddler, 1 star. Way too much work to try to get a frozen minion. For the payoff of 8 armor. Halftime Scavenger, 1 star, and this one is a little bit close to 2 stars, but I decided to round it down to 1. I don't think it'll actually see enough experimentation. You know, could just run Stranglethorn Tiger. Grifta, as much as I hyped it up, 1 star. The closest deck it would possibly be run in is even Paladin, and I think that'll be close, but not quite. Just not quite good enough still. Arena Treasure Chest 1 star joins Rubashi Offering as one of the less good cards in the set. Arena Fanatic 1 star. I think it has a little bit of potential application in Zoo, but still too slow for Zoo. Snapjaw Shellfighter 1 star. I was tempted to call this a sleeper, but it warps your deck a little bit too much to try to take advantage of Snapjaw Shellfighter's ability, I'd say. Sightless Ranger 1 star. It reminds me a lot of Feeding Time for Warlock, and that's not a good reminder. Moshog Announcer 1 star. Nice aggressive stat line. A little bit hard to kill, but ultimately not strong enough, I think, to fit into any deck, even aggressive odd decks. Former Champ 1 star. 5 mana 6/6 stat line is not quite good enough. Dragon Maw Scorcher 4 stars. I think that the stat line is pretty decent for the ability. It's worse than Ravaging Ghoul, but Ravaging Ghoul was just such a beast. This card enables your Smolder Thorn Lancer to perform the Execute ability, and it's just one of the dragons you need to make the whole deck work. Arena Patron 1 star. What a meme. Mojo Master Azihi 5 stars. The more combo decks or control decks we see which require playing a 9 mana or 10 mana card, or a 9 mana or 10 mana combo, the more Mojo Master Azihi we're going to see in probably mid-rangey decks. The more Druid is around, the more Mojo Master Azihi will be around as well. With the Nourish and the Wild Growth, slap them back down. I like it. Rebel Bouncer 1 star. I think even in a Evolve-focused deck, this will not make the cut. Line Cracker 1 star. Big minion that doesn't do anything quickly for 7 mana, just doesn't cut it. Crowd Roaster 4 stars. For along the same reasoning as Dragon Maw Scorcher, I think it is a card that will make it into Odd Warrior with Dragons. It was reasonable enough, decent. Amani Warbear 2 stars. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to see the Rush deck use it, if we're going to see the Taunt deck use it, or if we're going to see it because of the Beast quality, or maybe a mix of all of them, even though it only has 2 words. Like, it's pretty flexible, its stats don't suck for the mana cost. Could see it play somewhere. Moshog Enforcer 2 stars. I scoured all of the decks for the opportunity to run the Moshog Enforcer plus the Tar Creeper plus the Witchwood Grizzly combo in the Master Oakheart deck. I don't think there's anywhere that's that practical for it outside of exactly Taunt Druid, and Taunt Druid wants to run Dragon Hatcher for the 2 attack. The Undertaker 3 stars. I think this will be a card that might see play in and out of Death Rattle Rogue and Death Rattle Hunter. Both are able to quickly activate the Death Rattle of the Undertaker with their Necron Blade or with their Play Dead. Whether or not this is too slow for that, and whether or not this is practical enough and that the Death Rattle effects are actually relevant and are activated before the Undertaker is played, we'll see. Undasta 5 stars. I think this is a natural fit into the big recruit hunter deck. Death Rattle Hunter might see a return to their Katharina base, and then with their big beast synergy, because Undasta is pretty sweet to pull out of Katharina, and it is pretty sweet to pull out a charged Devil Sword with Undasta in turn. And finally, Hakar, the meme 1 star. If you want to imagine that you're in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Type anime, and you want to have the perfect card to stop your opponent's combo of Mecha'thun Druid, or Mecha'thun anything, you slam the Hakar, and then you kill your Hakar, and they can never win with Mecha'thun. Unless they have Emmet, which they sometimes do. Those are the neutral cards of RASTAKHAN'S Rumble. Now let's get ready to rumble!